How do you handle resistance in the form of specific rules, such as no sharing personal information, no touching, etc.?
So good question here because let me answer this in this way. So recently, I was talking to a new client, and he's telling me about a problem with basically he wants to quit his job and he wants to pursue business. But as soon as he quit his job and pursue business, his wife is really against it. Like his wife is just giving him a lot of shit, right? Telling him how she feels very insecure, and the insecurity is showing up in a lot of very weird ways. And as I was talking to him, I remembered my time when I quit my job and I started this business. And we weren't making money for 3 months. And in fact, it got to the point where I had 3 weeks of runway left before I had to get deported. But even in that time, she never gave me shit because she felt safe with me, right? It's like, so if your partner feels the need to impose boundaries on you, to impose this, to impose that on you, all that is just her saying to you, I don't feel safe, so I need to post boundaries and all these rules to protect myself because I don't believe you will protect me. I don't believe you know how to protect me. So again, this is another question where you create safety, you'll realize that your partner will stop placing so many pylons and boundaries for you. The same way, my partner, we never discussed the concept of boundaries of our relationship. Because once safety is created, we don't need that. The same way, and I always say too, with people I work with, if I need to enforce a contract, we shouldn't work together. Because if you think the contract needs to be there, then there's no trust. Same thing in a relationship. Like if you feel like your partner is giving you all these boundaries and you need to set your boundaries too, you're missing the whole game. You're not looking at the real root reason here, which is safety, which is the trust. So feel free to unmute this person if he has any more questions about this one.
There, Jonathan, is that you? Can you throw up a Q if you have the follow-up question on that?
Why a lot of coaching on YouTube right now is talking about healthy boundary. To be honest, I don't understand too. So I think the concept of boundaries and attachment styles and 5 love languages, people love that, right? Because it's a buzzword. It's become a buzzword because it's do I know I don't know why it's a buzzword, to be honest. But what I do know is that right now there are at least 3 different programs out there who are using a lot of these buzzwords. And they're right now facing a massive exodus of people away from their program into our program. And what's funny is that right now they're trying to copy their curriculum to match ours too. And the thing is this, right? You guys need to understand that when the reason I created this business is because I have consumed a lot of the same material that you guys have consumed. I read Gottman's Four Horsemen stuff. I read 5 love languages. I studied that stuff. I studied attachment styles. I studied all these CBT, all these techniques, and nothing has worked for me personally. In fact, we have a lot of therapists in the program who practice this stuff, and they are now using the license of our program to actually use it in their practice now. Because what we've done is we've tried to distill it down into the core essence of what you need to know and nothing else. For example, let's bring up the concept of attachment styles here, right? You could spend all day long trying to read that your partner is anxious avoidant or whatever it is. In our program, we just say, if your partner is showing the negative attachment styles, all it just means is that she doesn't feel safe and she's self-preserving. And she's self-preserving, and that manifests itself in anxious avoidant, in avoidance, in anxiety, whatever it is. But you fix the safety, you'll find that your partner no longer feels those things. So rather than spend all this time studying attachment styles, we just study how to create safety. Because once you create safety, you fix all these things too. The same way, boundaries. I get boundaries, it's a hot topic, whatever it is, but let's Again, we have 24 hours in a day. Let's not talk about that, because once we understand how to communicate and create safety, you realize that a lot of the boundaries you think you need to set doesn't need to be there. And then we can reserve the conversation to talking about the real boundaries based on real values, etc. Let me give you one more example of this. 3 years ago, my partner and I had a long conversation, right? And she, at this point in time, we just went home from a vacation. It's like 3 months long, or like a work vacation, work/vacation, 3 months long. And this trip costed me 50 grand. We just had a wedding last year that costed us 200 grand. We just had, I bought her a watch 2 years ago that's like 30,000. And when we came home from that trip, she told me, I want a bracelet. At that point in time, I could have said to her, let's draw a boundary here. We're not going to be materialistic like that. We're not going to do this. I'm not going to buy you the bracelet. I could just make it black and white like that. But I didn't. I instead asked her to go like, okay, tell me about this bracelet. And as the conversation progressed, it's really that she doesn't really want the bracelet. She really wanted to feel special and to feel like a princess, to feel like a queen, that is prioritized, that is valued, that is loved. And she told me basically, I've been feeling like throughout this whole vacation, as you say, you've been working late nights. You've been working really nice with your team in different time zones. Even like at 10:30 p.m., I feel like you prioritize your team and work more than me. And I just haven't been feeling like I'm special. I'm worth it to you. And now we realized together, it's not about the fucking bracelet. It's about something way deeper. And so there, we could have taken the conversation to be talking about boundaries. But that would have missed the point completely. So do you see how if you learn to understand how to read the relationship, how to read people in a deeper way, you realize that all these problems that people talk about and worry about, we don't need to worry about that stuff. The same way with like people dating too. I get confused sometimes. My friends tell me like all these criteria behind, oh, I don't like him anymore because he did this, he did that. If you create the culture of safety, all that stuff becomes a non-issue. So what we did is we tried to distill it down to what is the core things people need to focus on. And what we discover is that focus on the 5 pillars, these layers of changes, and you don't need to learn another lingo. You don't need to learn another concept or term about relationships. You'll be amazing. Because in the last 2 years, I stopped reading books about relationships. Because I'm just like, every book I read, oh, they talk about this principle. Well, that is really this in our program. Well, that is really this in our program. You could come up with like a different way to skin the cat, but I'm like, we already discovered a round wheel. Let's stick with that. Right. And I think the hard part about what ATO said here is I think throughout this whole call, what we're starting to discover is that it's not the hard part about this journey, right? And the reason why, like we always say, if we're working with hard skills like mathematics or engineering, it's much easier to see the problem together. Like if we're working a math problem, I can show you the math proof and go, do you see where your equation broke down? We both can touch it. We both can feel it. We both can agree it's the same problem, right? But with soft skills, with frameworks issues, with emotional issues, sometimes, as we've seen in this call, I can point to someone, right? You're falling for the victim mindset. They still can go, I didn't see that. I cannot see that. I don't see that, right? Because it's very much a very introspective experience here. So the hard part about creating safety, about being bulletproof, is not what you're doing to create safety, for example. It's the subtle mistakes that fall outside your blind spots. It's the subtle mistakes that is falling inside your subconscious of how you're destroying safety. That's the harder ones to spot, but that's the most crucial ones to spot. And that's what the program is designed to do, is like to help you gain that awareness, gain that consciousness of all these tiny little subtle things to make the whole package work. If that makes sense. So people saying like, oh, I realized my wife was trying to tell me this, but I didn't see that. Or I realized I was falling for this victim mindset, but I didn't see that, right? You need to be in a space where you're getting a lot of antis and a lot of feedback really fast from other coaches or other players to be able to see that for yourself. Because by definition, what's in your blind spot is in your blind spot. You'll never see it in a fucking million years.